Hello, a very good evening and welcome to your number one men's show on television. Another exciting episode of Men's Lounge. I am Sifat Danko. I'm not your regular host. I used to dabble in politics and current affairs, but today we are talking about men. So since I'm a man, I'm sitting in for your regular host, Nana Yao. And tonight we're talking about a very interesting issue, which has to do with a breach of promise to marry. And my guy, in case you are contemplating of taking an action of a sort, I think you may have to put a hold on that particular action that you want to take and enjoy us for the next 1 hour so that you learn something before you intend to take that particular step. And I know that after it all, you take something home from tonight. I have my guests who are seated. When I go for a break, when we return, I'll introduce my guests to you and then we can quickly jump into the conversation. Be right back. And welcome back to Men's Lounge. I have my guest already seated. Lawyer Leslie Fiadoyo is in the studio with us, and also a UK comedian and event MC. Gentlemen, welcome to the Men's Lounge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you.
For us at GMABC, our weekend was really exciting. From Home Award to music, magic, and comedy at Grand Arena. Let me find out from you. I mean, for an MC, your weekend is always tight.
Very, very tight.
How was it like?
I wasn't in Accra this weekend.
Okay.
If not, I would have been at the MMC Live.
Yeah. Next year you'll be there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Most of the times they happen to call on me. I don't have so much interest in the fame part of this whole entertainment thing. I want to make the money. So I was over the weekends. I was in Cape. I did a wedding in Cape Coast, and so that's how come I wasn't able to come that side. So for me, the weekend was still, it was fruitful. Yeah.
Let me move to lawyer. I mean, lawyers don't sleep. Weekend.
How did it end up? No, why don't you sleep? Well, you're thinking for everybody. Eh?
I'm just trying to be in your shoes for about a minute.
Mm.
How was it like over the weekend? Working on cases?
No, from Friday evening, I ceased being a lawyer, and then
Okay.
I come back to my normal self. Yeah, my normal self being either relaxing, playing game, you know. I just had the Xbox new series.
Wow.
So I'm very, very interested in gaming. And then, yeah, like I write. I have some manuscripts I'm working on.
Okay.
So that's how I relax. You will never see me go out on a weekend unless it's very crucial. I'm usually indoors. Yeah.
Usually indoors.
Yes,
That's how lawyers are most of the time.
Lawyer. Lawyer, get pen clip. You don't know.
Hey, you don't want to talk something. You don't want to talk something.
It's great to know how your weekend went. But
Yeah,
I mean, let's start a conversation. Let's start it off with a question.
Yeah.
UK, you broke heart before.
As in
You promised
I
to
broke
marry.
heart.
You
Promise
promised to
someone.
marry where you know marry
A
before.
young boy like me, I will go. Actually, I haven't really done the promise to marry someone. Someone rather promised to marry me, and today she didn't. She didn't marry me. So that
Someone
was my
promised
first.
to marry you,
Yeah,
and she did
She
not.
was the one who broke my virginity. So before I allowed her to do that, she promised me she was going to marry me. And so that was the only reason I allowed her to do that. And after breaking me,
The girl boots.
after breaking me, that was all. I mean, she found a police guy whose uncle was an army man. So, like, whenever you want to go and attack him, you rather end up going to give them food. So that's how come the whole relationship. She didn't marry me. I mean, and
Let me go to lawyer. And, I mean, let's deal with the legal aspect.
Yeah.
Whether in Ghana we do have a law that deals with, the breach of promise to marry someone. Interestingly enough, and there is a quotation by H.J. and Mensah Bonsu in the article that he wrote. The action for breach of promise to marry in Ghana, a new life, an old rule. And this is what he says: an action for breach of promise to marry arises when a person makes a promise, like in the case of UK, to marry another and refuses to perform. The refusal to perform could be by conduct or by an express refusal upon a request for performance. Lawyer,
Yes, sir.
is this a clear definition of the breach of promise to marry, or there is more to it?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, um, we are surrounded by agreements. I mean, it's based on agreements that we are both here. And some agreements can be enforced. Okay, some cannot be enforced. Some are unenforceable. But some agreements can be enforced. In the same way, when you promise someone that you will marry the person, or when you agree to a promise to get married to by someone else, I mean, the law deems it very serious. And it is not like my boss will say the chop bar promises. You know, you go to the chop bar and then the girl gives you big meat. Hey, obey, no, that's not the type of promise we are looking at. The promise must be followed by certain acts. You know, certain acts that are considered, that everybody knows that, yeah, I mean, this is a game changer. So you meet a woman, man meets woman, they are in an amorous relationship. You know, man says, oh, I'll marry you. You know, he goes to see her family, he presents certain items. You know, from his actions, you can tell that the guy means business. You understand that? Then that is where the law would come in to say that there was a promise to marry the person. Do you get it? So when you don't follow through with this promise, or when you breach this promise, it's like you have breached a contract. And because you've breached a contract, there's something that we call damages, monetary compensation. The person who suffered the breach should be compensated. Yes, so that is the whole idea of promise to marry.
But you mentioned that after the promise,
Yes,
the party or the individual must follow through with certain actions
yes,
that will reinforce the idea that, okay, I've made a promise and I will want to follow through
exactly.
with a promise. Does that mean, however, that, for example, we are in an amorous relationship and I make a promise that I'll marry you, and I do not follow up to go and see your family, I don't do any knocking, it does not constitute, and I fail not to marry you, it does not constitute breach of promise
No, mere,
to marry?
you know, the law says there's something called a bare promise. Just the utterance without following it up with overt actions does not amount to a promise to marry. You understand? Otherwise, by this time, the court would have been full. You understand that? So the law looks beyond merely representing to somebody that I'll marry you. Do you get it? It must follow, the promise should be followed by certain actions. Yes, it should always be followed by certain actions. Or even sometimes some situation can impute a promise to marry. Cohabitation, for instance.
Okay.
You can cohabitate with somebody for several years. I mean, so much so that if it's a compound house, you know, the dogs in the compound house refuse to be barking at her, stuff like that. Duty roaster or kaho. I mean, all this kind of stuff can impute a promise to marry. You know, those kind of stuff. Yes, but in all of this, it is not merely the utterance. You know, it is the behavior, it's the conduct that the law would look out for.
So the action after the statement has been made, after the promise has been made, that I'll marry you. That's what. I'll come back to you on cohabiting stuff, because I know under our statutes, I understand that if you live with a woman in the same room, in the same premises for about 7 years, automatically it becomes your wife. But let me come to UK. I mean, you're using your case as a reference point. What happened after the lady promised to marry you? Did she follow up to go and see anybody? Were you cohabiting?
So the whole point is, I'll pick it up from what lawyer earlier mentioned, that you know when there are certain factors that are considered as a promise. When the dogs in the house refuse to bark at her, that means even the dogs, they are beginning to accept her as a wife. When you begin to live together, when your friends begin to call our our wife, those kind of things. So that was my situation. I mean, in my area, in my house, we had the wildest dog in my house, and the dog actually sees barking at this lady because I had communicated with the dog that Jack, when this girl come, don't bark. And then almost every friend of mine knew this particular girl.
Bluetooth device found.
You were, connected though successfully, right? And so, and the whole point was, will I say I was young or naive? I didn't know. I was not too old, but I was there.
You're neither too
Old nor too young, but I was ready to, And so after everything, I decided to give in. I mean, this true life story. I decided to give in to the girl, and after everything happened, some time ago when she came, the dog started barking. I didn't understand. I didn't know that even the animal kingdom wanted to talk to me that something is about to happen. Like the BBC, when my friends see her, like they were not all smiling, not knowing they had seen what was already going on. So that was my case. The lady stopped communicating, and that was all. That was all for me.
And that was all.
Yeah.
Could that constitute a breach of
If there's no
promise
back
to marry?
end, just tell me because I'll have to see her.
Okay, she said from his case, yes.
From his case, yes.
Yes.
There's law backing that.
Yes, there's a law backing that. I mean,
She can be arrested.
no, she can't be arrested. It's a civil matter. With civil matter, there's no involvement of police, nothing. It's just a civil matter. You just sue.
Okay.
You understand that?
What
If it
do
is
you
a
get from the
criminal, so what I talked about, damages, monetary compensation. You can be awarded with some money.
Okay.
Criminal matters would lead to punishment.
Okay.
Civil matters will lead to some compensation of some sort, which my people call damages.
Okay.
If she doesn't pay.
Well, then
But
you can.
I think would the court say that? I mean, the person may not necessarily have the wherewithal to pay, and that she shouldn't pay. Is that even possible?
No, that's not possible.
That's not possible.
I mean,
Let's come to some of the reasons why. I mean, in this case, we are men, and we have to talk about men. We know that women also do promise, like in the case of UK, where the woman promised to marry UK, but unfortunately, we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And she decided not to continue with that, follow up on that particular promise. But lawyer, I know that you've had, engagements. I mean, since the civil case, you may have your colleague counsels talking about some of these issues. What do they tell you, or what do you think are some of the main reasons men fail to follow through with their promise to marry women?
okay. There are two sets of main reasons. The first set, the lawyers call vitiating factors. If you talk about vitiating factors, anything that affects the quality of something. So duress, if you were duressed into promising the person, whether man or woman, duress, then there's undue influence, then there's deceit. You were deceived into marrying the person. Okay.
Or you were deceived into promising that you marry the person.
Sorry, into promising that you marry the person and all that sort. So that is the vitiating factor aspect. Then the second aspect is basically reasons that would amount to the fact that the person is not good for you. I mean, the person cheats, you understand, or the person is unfaithful to you. The person has some ailment. Do you get it? The person has some ailment which you realize that no, if we proceed into marriage and children come in, we'll suffer. Do you get it? Or sometimes it can even be by mutual agreement, which the others will not know. We meet to realize that our whatever blood type is not
compatible,
whatever it is. Yeah, then we both agree and then we go our way. So these are some of the reasons a person, not a man, a person can change his or her mind even though the person may have promised to marry you. And these are defenses to the promise. I mean, you can call on any of these as a defense to the promise to marry a person. Yes, and you can escape liability.
Likely to escape liability.
You can likely to escape liability. Thank you.
We'll come to that, but you mentioned when somebody is not loyal,
Yes, unfaithful.
unfaithful.
Yes.
How does that come in?
So if a wise man once told me that until you promise to marry somebody, the person potentially is not yours. It is when you have promised to marry the person, then that is when there's an agreement. That's when any character that follows, you can stand on it to either go ahead or not go ahead. You understand that? So you're in a relationship with somebody, you've promised to marry the person, you've done certain acts. Everybody knows that this is, the mapping between you and her is a one-on-one basis. Unfortunately for you, there's a Wi-Fi going on that connects others. Or unfortunately for the girl, there's a Wi-Fi going on that connects you to others.
That Wi-Fi is not having a password.
Yeah, that Wi-Fi is open. So definitely, that would
But
that
could
would
that
seal
form
the fate.
could that form a formidable legal basis for somebody to say that, for example, because I have promised the lady, in my case, I'm using myself as an example.
Yeah.
I've promised the lady, and perhaps you are cohabiting, and my Wi-Fi is connecting with other people, and she has a justification to say that because my Wi-Fi is connecting with other people, it necessarily means I am not marrying her, and then she can file a suit at the court against me.
So let me get this straight. Her Wi-Fi is connecting to others.
Me.
Your
me,
Wi-Fi is
me,
connecting
the
to
man.
Yes.
My Wi-Fi is connecting to others.
Yes, she finds it intolerable to want to marry you. By your conduct, you've breached the promise to marry her. You understand that? Especially if the marriage was intended to be the Christian type, where there's a one-on-one mapping between man and woman, excluding all others. Come on. You promised to marry somebody and you are seen in the company of other women and stuff like that. There's actually a case like that, Efrifa and Class Peters. And the court held that, yes, among other things, he had breached the promise to the woman to marry her, So, yes, the authorities on it, yes, I need to hold. Yes, possible.
UK, you've experienced. The woman did it to you. You've heard of stories of men. Why they seem not to continue with the promise of marrying a woman.
But the whole truth is, Charlie, men be scam.
Men be scam, man.
Men be scam.
Men be scam.
Because, they know what they are going for. It's so painful that some of the initial stages of most relationships, the ladies are frank with the men. They tell them,
True.
Me dem imuadi also. Oh.
I think you like that.
Oh, oh. Me omo muadi na me. And after getting whatever they want again and again, and they end up falling, they now want to deal with the memoidia part. And the lady has already prompted you. You get it. And so at this point, if you find such a lady like disrespecting you, you're able to stand on that to say, because of that, I'm not going to marry you.
So the men, from the outset, yeah, the cause.
I'm saying 99.9% of relationship damages, I say men are the cause of it.
Yeah.
Or men be scam. It's not because I'm a man, but Charlie, me. So, say this guy, they like him. But because I will use a friend of mine as an example.
Okay.
There was a time when this friend of mine, he's much older than I am.
Okay.
And he was going out with this young lady, an SHS student,
Wow.
And, this guy I'm talking about is a married man. And so, and they live in the same area with the girl. And so the guy was like, the girl should not call him by his name. She should call him Naughty because he is a naughty guy. Just imagine Papa Penia, you're asking a young girl to call you Naughty.
Your daughter.
Your daughter to call you Naughty. And
how old was
the girl was around like 17, 18.
Hey, was very department.
And there was a time when my friend was standing with the wife, and the girl was passing and just called, "Hey, nothing man." Like nothing man. Like in this case, you go ball, you no go ball. So you guys call for some of these things.
Yeah,
Me, I say most of these things, like some good guys do, way some girls they maltreat their guys, but behind those maltreatments is another bad guy.
Okay.
I don't know if I get the whole
get
calculation.
I get it.
So me, I say, if guys would be truthful to themselves, some of these things will not happen. Sometimes it be very, very painful. Like some of the reasons people stand on to breach. Like me, I'm just learning a couple of few things from lawyer right now. That some of these things have legal backings and all of that. But I just learned that until you go ahead to you back your promises with actions. It can't be used against you. It's not a promise.
It's called a bare promise.
It's called
bare promise. They said they are
Oh, then that one they're like
the promises that you've been giving to the Wachira in your corner, that her daughter that you married.
Oh, but some it they happen. Oh, some it they happen. You would think that it's just a normal, but some it they happen. At least you go get to do things.
Yeah.
On that note, let's go for a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues. I believe that you've learned one or two things, and there is more for us to learn when we return. Do stay. And welcome back to the Men's Lounge live on ETV Ghana and also live on all of our social media platforms. I'm Sefa Dankwa, and tonight we're talking about the breach of promise to marry. And I know that a lot of the guys are asking questions. Well, the woman that I tell see I'm not going to marry him again, no, what will happen? If you want to know what will happen, the answer will be here for you. Lawyer Leslie Fiadoyo is still here with us. And also our friend who has been jilted, UK, a comedian and an event MC, is also here with us. He's I mean, off record, he's sharing with us a couple of very interesting scenarios. I myself, I have had a family member who took care of a particular lady, and they had an agreement to marry after the lady completes police training. Then the lady finishes with the police training, she's been posted, and then that was it.
No, but you see, this is your story. I always say that the day men would decide to be faithful, men would decide that, okay, enough is enough. Now we are going to be faithful. Universities are going to go down, colleges are going to go down, tertiaries, like a lot of institutions will go down. But who is looking after these children? These plenty children, who will look after them? Some parents are deliberate about this. They know that their child is in school and they just took one term school fees. They have not asked them all the term school fees and they are quiet.
All the 3 years.
Who is taking care of them? And you are complaining that your husband is not being faithful. Another person's husband is taking care of
UK.
You're going to kill us tonight.
Shall it might be true? There's some,
No, I mean,
Of course.
there's some truth to it.
Of
So,
course.
let all men decide that, okay, enough is enough, we are tired.
Yeah, we want
You will see children that will come home.
we want to be
There will
truthful.
be pressure in the homes.
you see children that come.
Yeah.
School dropout.
Come on. I'm not saying.
Let's continue with the conversation, lawyer. You previously mentioned about cohabitation.
Yeah.
And it's one thing that I think we've talked about here
Yeah.
on the show. So if, for example, I'm cohabiting with a woman for 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years, what does it mean? I mean,
Yeah. So impliedly, I mean, it means what it means, you know.
It is what it is.
Untimi nchi will be back.
Everybody question baby.
Everyone question baby sir. For I mean, this is kidnapping. I mean, come down once about them for breach of promise, sir. Because otherwise, hey. But on a more serious note, you know, lawyers call something implied conduct or implied behavior. I mean, even though expressly it may not be there, you can imply from the settings or from the behavior. I mean, you are cohabiting with somebody. I mean, they call her your wife. Oh, you know, like our for like I said, duty roster. The dogs know her. She knows all the dogs in the compound. You know, a compound house are, you know, all those type of stuff. She's not cohabitating with you for fun. You understand? There's an end. There's a purpose. You know, and this can be implied. I mean, the intention to marry her or to live as man and wife can be implied from the situation. Yeah. So that's the whole idea with cohabitation.
At what point is a contract presumed in this case? At what point can we say that, okay, there exists a contract between, for example,
This is an agreement.
There exists an agreement between, let's say, UK and the lady that promised to marry UK.
Oh. Apart from the promise that she made, I mean, there were certain, I'm sure she was doing certain things that convinced you.
Yeah,
right?
she was taking care of me.
Yes, exactly. She was
She was
providing the security, she was providing the...
There was no security. Nobody guide us, so we sleep alone.
yeah, I mean, financial security.
Okay.
Financial security, material security, and all those stuff.
Oh, okay.
In furtherance of the promise she made, you know, she puts a promise out there, and she's following it through. You understand that? So definitely that is
At that
where,
point, we can say that there is an agreement between
yes, of course.
UK and
he also acted on that promise. There should have been a giving and taking, or what the economics would call demand and supply. So there should have been a giving and taking, you know. So it is not merely, so man meets woman. Man promises to marry woman. Man does certain things that show that, in fact, I'm very, very serious about what I'm saying. Woman acts on that promise. Maybe she's supposed to have landed, well, she was staying at Kolebu Nurses Quarters. She was a nurse. You know, you promised her that no, if she leaves her place to come and stay with you at Kotobabi and then apply for a teaching role, I mean, that is in furtherance of the promise you made to her. She acted on it. She left her job as a nurse. Do you understand that? And then came to you, got employed as a teacher, all acting on the promise you made to her that you would marry her. You know, she has suffered what lawyers call some detriment. You know, some due disadvantage because she acted on what you told her. That should be enough of an enforceable agreement. And I'm glad before the show you mentioned a very recent case.
Yeah.
You know, yes. I mean, look at what the woman went through. She was living in one part of the... And then she got invited.
Exactly.
And then, good. And then look at what the man told her, that she should enter into the business of prostitution.
And she did.
And she did.
She enjoyed. No, you did. If there was a time you complained, that's fine. You did without complaining. It means you, the woman, you have decided. You have made your mind already to go into prostitution. What you did?
Well, you know what? The judge said for whatever her motivation was for entering into, we don't know. But what's important is that she acted on your promise and she suffered some detriment. I mean, look at prostitution. Look at the whole idea of commercial sex. Well, I'm not a moralist.
Okay.
But at least it comes with some detriment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and then after all this, the proceeds she gets, she sends it to you to establish some property or to acquire some properties, all in the hopes that
you get married
to her. And then in the end, it doesn't come through. I mean, definitely.
But you see, whilst lawyer was okay, I had a question, and this has even, how? That she was sending the proceeds to you.
Yes.
Because she had it at the back of her mind that you will marry her. If she's the one, will she marry herself after entering into prostitution? There are some girls who are also using their works to force guys to marry them. It happens to a friend. The girl works at Birth and Death.
Okay.
They do certificates for people who die.
Yeah.
And people who they born. So the girl's using this work. Because of that, the guy is not able to leave this girl. Because he doesn't know who is going to do the death certificate and who is going to do The girl has already told her, you know my work, right? If you leave me, I do it. If we give birth, I do it. So because of
Well, how much is that going to cost? I mean, why should that be?
no,
Why
if
should that even be?
somebody that does death certificate, you want to leave her, how do you want to die? And so it's the same way. The girl is using her enjoyment in the name of working as a prostitute to force
But in
this
that
guy
case,
to.
in that particular case, the lady was working in a carpentry
Yes,
shop
exactly. She
in
had a,
Udinese. I mean, she had a very beautiful, I mean, a blooming
she was an artisan.
career.
Yeah.
She was an artisan who was making money out of that particular
And
carpentry.
he decided to leave.
And not that she decided to leave. She did
She
not
acted on your
unilaterally.
promise.
She acted on the
The guy
promise
did not force
given
her.
by the guy that she should move from Udinese to Napoli, and that when she gets to Napoli, there's
She
a
should enter into
possibility of making more money compared to what
This
she was
one, we
making
should
in
blame the
Udinese.
lady.
But I mean, lawyer made mention of a very critical issue.
Yeah.
He said that there is always a demand and supply
Yes.
in the agreement. Could that be a point where there is the supply
And there's
and
no
there is no
demand.
demand, or there is a demand
And there's no
no supply?
Yes, that is where the breach of promise will come in. I mean, there should, I mean, these are forces, these are economic forces, according to the economics. So let me borrow their term. Demand always works hand in hand with supply. If you come to the legal world, offer always works hand in hand with acceptance. Do you understand it? So where there is no hand in hand relationship, then that's where the lawyers will say there's a breach.
Okay.
Do you get it? Where there's the offer and there's no acceptance coming.
So let me clarify this, lawyer. For example,
Yeah.
I meet a woman. I tell her, I'll marry you, right? And she said, okay. But then I did not follow up with,
I mean, that's a bare promise. I mean,
so that's what I
well, that's
I
what
like.
you meant.
That's
Okay.
that's what I meant.
Yeah, yeah.
Could that be a
No,
situation
no, no.
like
So
that?
that's just a bare. That's
That's
what
just
my
a
boss would say. Chop bar promise.
So that will not constitute
No, no,
any
no, no,
breach.
no, no.
of
Hey,
promise
like
to
by
marry.
this time, like boys,
I swear.
they court.
I
Boys
swear.
form queue for court.
I swear. Like boys, boys
Oh,
go
boys
suffer.
sit down, grab them, give them meat pie, them cook.
Like
grab
boys
them
go
chillo.
suffer. Boys go suffer.
Let's look at this scenario. Now we are all in a relationship.
Yes.
And, from the,
As an example,
As an
or
example.
real life.
as an example,
Okay.
Okay.
we are all in a relationship and taking a look at how things are turning. We all see that it's not possible for us to continue.
Yeah.
Is there a point where the two of us,
We all see.
we all see,
We all come to the
we
mutual
all
agreement.
come to the mutual agreement that from the way things are going, there is no possibility of us being together forever, and that we should go our separate ways.
Yeah, so that's mutual understanding. Yeah. So there cannot be any action in a breach of promise to marry when the two parties mutually understood that we can't continue. Maybe man meets woman, they're in a relationship, they realize that, I think most of the time it's got to do with this, like, I don't know how the medical people call it, your blood group. You know, you are SS, I'm also SS, or you are AS and I'm also AS, and the possibility that we would give birth to an SS and all those stuff. By mutual understanding, I mean, we vacate the premises. That one, no breach of promise to marry can arise from such a situation. Do you understand that? Or for some reason, we both sit there and go like, see, don't let us kid ourselves anymore. We are mature people. This can't go on. We say, yeah, Charlie, you're right. This can't go on. So I wish you well, I wish you well. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Should we be friends? No. Everybody goes
Go
or
their separate ways.
separately. That one can't stand around and say, you breached a promise to marry me. Because by mutual understanding, you both ejected from the plane before it crashed.
I believe that you're still learning something right here on Men's Lounge tonight. And I mentioned earlier that if you're contemplating of even taking that action, if you're contemplating of taking that action, to say to the woman that you've been with for the past 6, 7 years, 8 years, you've been promising, you've gone to see the family, you were together, you've been dilly-dallying, dabbling yourself in bed and all of that, please think about it. Let's go for a break. On return, we'll have the final part of the conversation. The question has to do with, I mean, what we should be looking out for when we go to, when we get into a relationship. Should we be even making those promises at all? Or return, we'll focus on that and we'll wrap up. And many thanks for staying on with us. This is Men's Lounge live on ETV Ghana. I am Sifat Dankwa. I'm not your regular host, but tonight I've been enjoying the show, and I believe that I really want to be a part of the show going forward. I know that you may have a couple of contributions to make on the show. Let me quickly announce the phone line so that when I open the lines, you can also call in and then share your thoughts with us. 0555 657278 0555 657278. That's the number that you can call in when the phone lines are open. But I mean, let's wrap up with two quick questions. Should we, lawyer, be making promises of marriage when we are in a relationship?
When I was in SS, I read, I was an art student. And then there was this book we were reading in class called Death of a Salesman. And in Death of a Salesman, the main character was it Willie Loman? One of them, I've forgotten. He told his son, Biff, be careful what you tell the woman, they never forget. And I think that has stuck with me for a while now. Don't promise. I think basically what the law is saying is that don't promise what you don't intend to follow up.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Kanye West will say, don't say you will when you know you won't. I mean, he has a whole song on say you will. So don't promise somebody, let the person act on it, suffer some detriment, and then later on you just, I mean, you just back out of the promise. I mean, definitely the law will hold you to it. Definitely the law will hold you to it. So my advice is, if you do not intend to, don't put the promise out there, and even be a daredevil and follow it up with certain actions.
When, you know, there are all indications, and as you mentioned, subliminal duress. I mean, it's not being, the lady's not being direct with you to tell you that, tell me that you'll marry me. What happens in that case? And you are fully aware that if no promise of that sort goes out, you're likely to lose the woman.
It will surprise you to realize that women love more than we think they do. Yes, I think women love it when you make them understand that this is the situation. Because if you do that, she's thankful for your truthfulness, for your openness. You understand that? Yes. You make her understand that this is the situation. We are not going to get, I mean, not every relationship must end in marriage. I mean, that's it. But if you promise her and you lead her on a certain path and she also accepts it and she acts in a certain way, I mean, you'll be in trouble. Tell her the truth that, hey, this is the situation. I don't see any marriage in sight, or I'm not a married material, or something like that. So, like my friends will say, we are just catching cruise. Like Montias here, Opewa, she will understand. Okay. Ompewa, she goes her way.
Okay.
Yeah. Either ways, you don't suffer future legal consequences. Yes. So don't promise what you do not intend, and even follow it up. You know, that's deceit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me pick your final thoughts so that I can open the phone line.
So to add up to what lawyer has said, I think you should promise. You should, come on.
You should promise?
Come on. Me, if I'm a lady, I'll not just go in for guys who fear to do things. You won't promise because you are afraid that we might not marry. Sure. I mean, you know what I'm thinking. Understand? I mean, I think we should, in this part of our world, without promises, you can't even go anywhere. Look at where Ghana is now. It's because of a promise. You understand? I've not mentioned anybody's name. If you know, you know. It's because of a promise. And so we should keep promising. But you know, I always say the heavier your promise, the heavier the kind of woman you're able to attract. You understand? If your promise is small, you attract small. And if small is 100, big is 100, why will you go for small? You go for big. So I think it depends on who is promising you. it depends on who you are promising.
Okay.
I mean, me, I believe words are very powerful.
Yeah.
Our words go a long way to affect us in our tomorrows. You understand? So me, I believe whatever I say with my mouth cometh to pass.
Yeah.
It won't come to pass if it's not meant to.
be.
Say emfa. Opa yedin sa na fa se wo de te okose kuse nyina so tu betimi akole nu awu na okose kuse ni nyina wo de awu. And so the more you're able to be positive to your own self and positive to the partner or whoever you are with, I think, I mean, nature will favor you in the course of doing that. So me, I go with the guys who promise, I go with the ladies who promise.
So you're advising them to continue promising.
Yes, let's promise as much as we can, as far as we can. You think girls don't have sense? They do. Who try and try, they know.
Yeah.
If you're being real with them, they know.
Yeah.
And so when you promise, be a promise, you know. If you don't promise, another person will promise and take your promise girl away. And so in either ways, if you lose her, you will lose her.
Yeah, man.
And your promise, you are one promise, you know. And then your promise, you are a promise, you know. I'd rather be positive than be silent. So we keep talking.
We keep talking. We keep
That's
promising. And let me see if we could pick one or two calls and then we wrap up the show for today. 0555 65 7278. I understand the time is even already up. I think that we need to have a sequel to this particular conversation because there are other issues having to do. I mean, what are the remedies? For example, if I am in a relationship with a woman and the woman also promises to marry me, but in the end the woman leaves me, what happens to me? What do I do?
Well, you can sue for breach of promise to marry.
Okay.
Even though the statistics favor the women, but men have also been known to successfully sue women for breach of promise.
How many men? My brother, if they do you, just stay.
Just take out.
Find another girl. That's all. I mean.
And on that note, we wrap up today's episode of Men's Lounge. Many thanks to my gentleman, lawyer Leslie Fiadeyo, and also UK, who is a comedian in the Venoms. I've enjoyed you guys today. I am Sefat Dankwa. We will come your way again with Men's Lounge.
Special shout out to my younger sister, Mrs. Watson, and my Atadwa, my niece. They are watching me. If I don't do this, I mean, I can go home. Yeah, Atadwa is my younger niece.
Okay.
My first niece.
All right. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching. Good night.